The thunderous roar of the crowd echoed through the hidden valley in the Appalachian Mountains, where ancient rituals clashed with the modern world like a storm nobody saw coming. I, Elijah Rivera, a 25-year-old barista from a sleepy Tennessee town, stood bound at the edge of a glowing ritual circle, my heart pounding as the village elders chanted words from a forgotten tongue. They called it a sacrifice to appease the orc clans encroaching on our lands. But as the massive shadow of the Warlord emerged from the fog, I realized this wasn't just death, it was the beginning of something that would shatter everything I knew about love, loyalty, and who I truly was. The air was thick with the scent of pine and incense, the kind that burned in old family heirlooms passed down through generations. My wrists chafed against the rough ropes, a stark reminder of how I'd ended up here. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. Growing up in Willow Creek, a quaint town nestled between rolling hills and forgotten coal mines, I'd always felt like an outsider. My parents, devout followers of the old ways, had raised me on stories of the Great Pacta Treaty forged centuries ago when European settlers first encountered the orc tribes hidden in America's wild frontiers. The orcs, massive beings of green-skinned might, had retreated into the shadows after bloody wars. But every decade, a tribute was demanded to keep the peace. This year, the lot fell on me, the quiet gay kid who'd never quite fit into the macho mold of small-town life. I remembered the night they came for me. It was after a shift at the local coffee shop, where I'd been daydreaming about escaping to Nashville or New York, anywhere I could live openly without whispers behind my back. My best friend, Marcus, a sharp-witted mechanic with a laugh that could light up the darkest room, had warned me. Eli, something's off with the elders. They're talking about the pact again. But I brushed it off, too caught up in my own world of hidden crushes and unspoken desires. That night, masked figures dragged me from my bed, their grips like iron. You're the chosen one, they murmured, as if it were an honor. Chosen, more like condemned for being different. As the ritual reached its climax, the ground trembled. From the tree-line emerged Thorn Blacktusk, the infamous orc warlord whose name struck fear into human hearts across the southeast. Towering at over 7 feet, with broad shoulders etched in tribal scars and eyes like smoldering coals, he approached with a stride that shook the earth. His armor, forged from enchanted steel and adorned with bones of ancient beasts, glinted under the moonlight. The elders bowed low, offering me up like a lamb. Take him, mighty Thorn, and spare our lands, the head elder intoned. But Thorn didn't lunge with claws or chains. Instead, he paused, his gaze locking onto mine. There was no rage in those eyes, only a flicker of something deeper, something that made my pulse race in confusion. He raised a massive hand, and the crowd gasped as he severed my bonds with a single swipe of his dagger. This one is no sacrifice, he rumbled, his voice like distant thunder rolling over the hills. He is a blessing. The words hung in the air, stunning everyone into silence. I stumbled back, rubbing my wrists, my mind reeling. A blessing. Me, the orc warlord, known for raising villages and leading hordes through the misty forests, was looking at me with kindness. He knelt slightly, his presence overwhelming yet strangely gentle. And from a satchel at his side, he pulled out a set of lightweight armor, sleek, rune-etched plates that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Wear this, he said, his tone firm but warm. Not as a prisoner, but as my equal. The elders erupted in protest, but Thorn silenced them with a glare. The pact is twisted by your fears. This human carries the spark we need. He turned to me, his hand extended. Trembling, I took it, feeling the rough calluses against my skin, a spark igniting something I couldn't name. as he led me away from the circle, into the depths of the forest. I glanced back at the shocked faces of my former life. Marcus was there, his eyes wide with worry. But I couldn't stop. This was madness. Yet it felt like destiny. We traveled through the night, Thorn's massive form cutting a path through the underbrush with ease. He spoke little at first, but as the stars wheeled overhead, he shared fragments of his world. The orcs weren't the monsters humans painted them to be. They were guardians of ancient magics, displaced by industrialization and human expansion. Your people fear us because we remind them of what they've lost, he said, his voice softening. Connection to the land, to strength without shame. I found myself opening up, too, about my life in Willow Creek. The isolation of hiding my sexuality in a town where different meant danger. Thorn listened, his nods thoughtful. In my clan, love knows no bounds. He replied, strength comes from the heart, not from hiding it. His words stirred something in me, a warmth I'd never felt with anyone. By dawn, we'd reached a hidden encampment in the Smoky Mountains, where orc warriors mingled with a surprising mix of humans and other beings. Tents dotted the landscape, fires crackling with the scent of roasted game. Thorn introduced me to his second-in-command, a fierce orc woman named Kira, whose braided hair was adorned with feathers. This is Elijah, he announced to the gathering. He joins us not as tribute, but as ally. Murmurs rippled through the camp, but Thorn's authority quelled any dissent. He fitted the armor on me personally, his fingers brushing my shoulders, sending shivers down my spine. It fit perfectly, as if made for me. This will protect you, he whispered. As I will. Days blurred into a whirlwind of training and discovery. I learned to wield a blade under Kira's watchful eye, my barista hands callousing from the grip. Thorn was always nearby, his presence a constant anchor. We'd spar in the clearing, his laughter booming when I landed a lucky hit. You're quick, little one, he'd tease, but his eyes held admiration. One evening, by a roaring campfire, he shared his past, the loss of his mate in a human raid years ago, the loneliness that had hardened him. I thought the gods had forsaken me, he confessed, staring into the flames. Until you. My heart ached for him. I reached out, placing my hand on his. I'm scared, I admitted. Of this world. Of what I feel. He turned, his gaze intense. Fear is the chain we break together. In that moment, under the vast American sky, our lips met a kiss born of fire and fragility, sealing a bond that transcended worlds. But peace was fleeting. Whispers reached us of unrest in Willow Creek. The elders, furious at Thorn's defiance, had allied with rival human factions, stirring up old hatreds. Scouts reported armed patrols scouring the mountains, led by a zealous hunter named Victor Hale, a man I'd known from Towntal, blonde, and harboring a grudge against anything unnatural. Victor had always eyed me with suspicion, and now he saw my escape as betrayal. Thorn gathered his warriors. We must strike first, or they'll bring war to our door. I volunteered to scout, my new armor gleaming as I slipped into the familiar woods. But as I neared the town, memories flooded back: the coffee shop, Marcus's garage, the life I'd left, hiding in the shadows. I overheard Victor rallying a mob. The orc has bewitched our boy. We take him back, or we burn their camp. Heart pounding, I raced back to warn Thorn. The camp was alive with preparations, orcs sharpening axes and chanting war songs. Thorn pulled me aside, his face etched with worry. You don't have to fight, Elijah. But I shook my head. This is my fight now. For us. The battle erupted at midnight, under a blood moon that painted the mountains red. Human forces charged from the tree-line, torches blazing, guns cracking against enchanted shields. Thorn led the charge, his war cry shaking the ground. I fought beside him, my blade clashing with Victor's sword. "Traitor!" Victor snarled, his eyes wild. "You've shamed us all." I parried, sweat stinging my eyes. "Love isn't shame, Victor. It's strength." Our duel raged amid the chaos, steel ringing like bells of fate. Thorn roared my name, dispatching foes to reach me. In a desperate lunge, Victor aimed for my heart, but Thorn intercepted, his axe shattering the blade. Victor fell back, defeated but alive. As dawn broke, the humans retreated, their forces broken. Thorn and I stood amid the fallen, his arm around me. "You were my blessing," he murmured, pulling me close. But victory came at a cost. Kira lay wounded, her sacrifice buying us time. In the aftermath, we tended the injured, human and orc alike. Marcus arrived, having defected from the town, his face bruised but determined. "I couldn't let them destroy this," he said, clasping my hand. Thorn nodded in respect. "Your friend is welcome." As weeks passed, the pact evolved. Elders from both sides met under truce, forging a new alliance. No more sacrifices, only unity. Thorn and I built a life together, his strength complementing my spirit. In quiet moments, we'd hike the trails, hands intertwined, sharing dreams of a world where love conquered fear. One crisp autumn day, atop a peak overlooking the valleys, Thorn knelt. "Elijah, you turned my curse into hope. Will you stand with me forever?" Tears blurred my vision as I nodded. "Always." Our union symbolized Chonhei, a beacon for outcasts everywhere. In America's hidden corners, where ancient and modern intertwined, we proved that true blessings come not from chains, but from open hearts. The camp buzzed with renewed energy as alliances solidified. Thorn's leadership shone brighter, his once stern demeanor softened by our bond. I'd catch him watching me during council meetings, a small smile tugging at his tusks, and my chest would tighten with that familiar warmth. Kira recovered slowly, her scars a testament to her bravery. "You too give me hope," she grumbled one day, sharpening her blade. "Even an old warrior like me." But shadows lingered. Rumors spread of a greater Three-Da coalition of northern orc clans, led by a ruthless warlord named Draven Stormfist, who viewed Thorn's mercy as weakness. Draven's horde had been pushing south, conquering territories with brutal efficiency. Scouts reported sightings near the Ohio border, their banners flapping like omens in the wind. Thorn confided in me during a late-night walk along a babbling stream. Draven was once my brother in arms. Betrayal turned him bitter. His voice carried the weight of old wounds. I squeezed his hand. "We'll face him together. You've taught me that." Preparations intensified. I trained harder, my body transforming from soft to sinewy under orc regiments. Marcus integrated quickly, his mechanical skills adapting human tech to orc weaponry, enchanted rifles that fired bolts of energy. "This is wild," he'd say, grinning, like living in a video game, but with real stakes. One evening, as rain pattered on our tent, Thorn and I shared a rare moment of vulnerability. "I never thought I'd find love again," he admitted, tracing patterns on my back. "You challenge me, Elijah. Make me better." I leaned in, our kiss deepening with passion born of survival. In his arms, I felt invincible, our bodies entwining in a dance of trust and desire. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Draven's forces ambushed a supply run, capturing several warriors. Thorn's rage was palpable. "We rescue them at dawn." I insisted on joining the raid, my armor now etched with personal runes symbolizing our love, a heart intertwined with a tusk. The rescue unfolded in a foggy valley, arrows whistling through the air. We stormed Draven's camp, Thorn's axe cleaving through defenses. I spotted the prisoners, bound near a central fire. As I freed them, Draven emerged, a hulking orc with eyes like voids. Thorn's pet human. He sneered. How quaint. Thorn charged, their clash epic axes sparking with magic. Draven fought dirty, summoning shadows that clawed at Thorn's flanks. I dove in, my blade piercing the darkness, giving Thorn the opening he needed. With a mighty swing, he disarmed Draven. Yield, brother, Thorn growled. Draven laughed bitterly. You've gone soft. But in that moment, something shifted. Draven's eyes flickered to me, seeing not weakness, but resolve. He surrendered, his horde dispersing. Perhaps mercy has its place, he muttered before vanishing into the woods. The victory cemented our alliance. Northern clans sent envoys, intrigued by Thorn's new way. Elijah Rivera, once a sacrifice, became a legenda bridge between worlds. Life settled into a rhythm of peace. Thorn and I explored the vast American landscapes, from the Appalachians to the Rockies, advocating for unity. In Denver, we addressed mixed councils, our story inspiring change. Love defies boundaries, I'd say, Thorn's hand in mine. Yet, personal trials tested us. I grappled with homesickness, missing simple things like coffee runs. Thorn noticed, surprising me with a makeshift cafe and camp beans sourced from human traders. For my blessing, he said shyly. Our intimacy grew, nights filled with whispered promises and fervent embraces. His touch, once intimidating, became my sanctuary. You complete me, he'd murmur, our souls merging in ecstasy. As seasons turned, we faced one final hurdle. Victor Hale, unrepentant, plotted a solo assault. He infiltrated our camp under cover of night, dagger poised over Thorn as he slept. I awoke to the glint of steel, tackling Victor in a desperate struggle. Why? I gasped. Abomination. He spat. Thorn stirred, subduing him easily. Instead of execution, we offered redemption. Join us, or leave in peace. Victor chose exile, his hatred crumbling under our compassion. In the end, our story wasn't just about survival, it was about transformation. From sacrifice to blessing, we built a legacy of acceptance, proving that in America's melting pot of myths and men, love always wins. Years later, as elders ourselves, Thorn and I sat by a fire, watching young Wenshuman and orc play without fear. We did this, I said, leaning on him. You did, he replied, kissing my forehead. My eternal blessing. The wind carried our laughter, a testament to enduring love. A romantic fantasy illustration in a misty American wilderness at dusk, featuring a young human man with soft features, tousled dark hair, and wide eyes filled with awe and budding love, standing close to a towering orc warlord with rugged green skin, muscular build, tusks, and battle scars. His expression tender and protective as he drapes intricate armor over the man's shoulders instead of chains. Their hands touch gently, conveying deep romance and trust amid subtle battlefield remnants like fallen banners and ancient ruins, symbolizing a journey from forced sacrifice to cherished blessing in a world where ancient pacts clash with modern hearts. In the background, a weathered wooden signpost partially obscured by vines bears the carved text, "Sacrifice turns to love." The thunderous roar of the crowd echoed through the hidden valley in the Appalachian Mountains, where ancient rituals clashed with the modern world like a storm nobody saw coming. I Elijah Rivera, a 25-year-old barista from a sleepy Tennessee town, stood bound at the edge of a glowing ritual circle, my heart pounding as the village elders chanted words from a forgotten tongue, their voices rising like a fever dream that pulled me from the ordinary into the abyss. They called it a sacrifice to appease the orc clans encroaching on our lands. But as the massive shadow of the warlord emerged from the fog, his silhouette cutting through the mist like a blade through flesh, I realized this wasn't just death, it was the beginning of something that would shatter everything I knew about love, loyalty, and who I truly was, forcing me to confront the hidden parts of my soul I'd buried deep in the soil of small-town secrecy. The air hung heavy with the sharp tang of pine needles crushed underfoot and the smoky bite of incense curling from brass censers that looked like relics from a museum. Heirlooms passed down through generations of families clinging to traditions long forgotten by the bustling cities beyond these hills. My wrists burned against the coarse ropes that dug into my skin, each twist a cruel reminder of how I'd stumbled into this nightmare. It had all begun so deceptively simple, like the calm before a hurricane sweeping in from the Gulf. Growing up in Willow Creek, a quaint dot on the map surrounded by rolling green hills dotted with abandoned coal mines that whispered of harder times, I'd always been the odd one out, the boy who preferred sketching landscapes over hunting trips with the local guys. My parents, Maria and Jose Rivera, were pillars of the community, devout adherents to the old ways that blended Catholic saints with pagan rites brought over from distant ancestors. They'd filled my childhood with tales of the Great Pact, a solemn agreement etched in blood centuries ago when the first European settlers clashed with the indigenous orc tribes that had roamed America's untamed frontiers long before Columbus ever set sail. These orcs, colossal beings with skin like weathered emerald and strength that could uproot trees, had withdrawn into the shadows after brutal conflicts, their existence reduced to legends in most parts of the country. But in places like Willow Creek, the pact demanded tribute every decade to maintain the fragile Pisea, human life offered to the orc warlords to sate their supposed bloodlust. This year, fate's cruel lottery had landed on me, the quiet gay young man who'd never quite meshed with the town's rigid expectations of masculinity, where football games and barbecues defined a man's worth. I could still picture the night they came for me, the memory as vivid as a nightmare that refuses to fade with the dawn. It was right after my evening shift at Brew Haven, the cozy coffee shop on Main Street where I'd spent countless hours foaming lattes and daydreaming about fleeing to the vibrant streets of Nashville or the skyscrapers of New York City, places where I could finally live openly, without the constant fear of judgment shadowing my every step. My best friend, Marcus Thompson, a quick-witted African-American mechanic with the infectious laugh that could dispel the gloomiest moods and hands perpetually stained with engine grease, had pulled me aside that afternoon, his brown eyes serious under his baseball cap. "Eli, listen up. Man, something's brewing with the elders. They're whispering about the pact again, and your name's come up more than once." I'd laughed it off, too entangled in my own web of unspoken crushes on passing travelers and the quiet ache of loneliness that came from hiding my true self in a place where being different could mean isolation or worse. But that night, as I lay in my small apartment above the shop, the door burst open. Masked figures, their faces obscured by hoods embroidered with ancient symbols, seized me from my bed, their grips unyielding as steel vices. "You're the chosen one, Elijah," one hissed through the fabric, his voice muffled but laced with false reverence. Chosen. It felt more like a curse, a punishment for daring to be myself in a world that demanded conformity. As the ritual built to its feverish peak, the ground beneath my feet vibrated like the rumble of an approaching train, sending pebbles skittering across the dirt. From the dense tree-line, where fog clung to the branches like ghostly fingers, stepped Thorn Blacktusk, The legendary orc warlord whose name alone could silence a room full of tough-talking hunters. He towered over 7 feet tall, his frame a masterpiece of raw power with broad shoulders scarred from countless battles, skin a deep, verdant hue that blended with the forest, and eyes glowing like embers in a dying fire. His armor, hammered from enchanted steel that hummed with latent magic and decorated with the polished bones of mythical beasts slain in forgotten wars, caught the moonlight in flashes that made him seem almost ethereal. The elders dropped to their knees in unison, their chants faltering as they proffered me like a gift wrapped in terror. Accept this tribute, mighty Thorn, and grant mercy to our humble lands. The head elder, old Mr. Hargrove, with his quivering white beard, proclaimed in a voice cracked by age and fear. Yet Thorn did not pounce with the savage fury the stories promised. No claws rending flesh or chains clanking in triumph. Instead, he halted mere feet away, his piercing gaze fixing on mine with an intensity that stole my breath, as if he were peering straight into the core of my being. There was no feral rage in those eyes, only a subtle spark of recognition, of something profound that quickened my heartbeat in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. With deliberate slowness, he lifted one enormous hand, calloused from years of wielding weapons, and the assembled crowd inhaled sharply as he drew a gleaming dagger from his belt. In one fluid motion, he sliced through my bonds, the ropes falling away like shed skin. This human is no mere sacrifice, he declared, his voice a deep rumble that echoed off the valley walls like thunder born from the earth itself. He is a blessing bestowed upon us. Those words suspended time, leaving the air thick with stunned silence as murmurs of disbelief rippled through the onlookers. I staggered backward, massaging my freed wrists, my thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and adrenaline. A blessing. Me, the outcast from Willow Creek. This orc warlord, infamous for leading charges that had leveled entire settlements and driven fear into the hearts of humans from Georgia to Virginia, regarded me not with contempt, but with an unexpected gentleness that bordered on reverence. Lowering himself slightly to my level, though he still loomed like a mountain, reached into a leather satchel slung across his chest and withdrew a suit of armor unlike any I'd seen, lightweight plates of iridescent metal inscribed with glowing runes, designed for agility rather than bulk. "Don this," he commanded, his tone authoritative yet laced with warmth that sent an inexplicable shiver through me. Not as a captive in chains, but as my equal in the trials ahead. The elders exploded into outrage, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of protest. "This defies the pact. He must be taken." But Thorn quelled them with a single, scorching glare, his presence alone enough to command obedience. "Your interpretation of the pact is corrupted by cowardice and ignorance," he growled. "This one bears the spark our people have long awaited, a bridge to heal old wounds." Turning back to me, he extended his hand, palm upturned in invitation. My fingers trembled as I placed mine in his, feeling the rough texture of his skin against my smoother one, an electric current passing between us that ignited a flicker of curiosity, of possibility. As he guided me away from the ritual circle and into the enveloping embrace of the forest, I cast one last glance over my shoulder at the frozen faces of my past life. Marcus stood among them, his expression a mix of horror and helpless concern. But I couldn't turn back. This was insanity, a leap into the unknown. Yet deep down, it resonated like the call of fate I'd been waiting for all my life. We journeyed through the enveloping darkness of the night, Thorn strides carving an effortless path through tangled underbrush that would have ensnared me alone. He remained mostly silent at first, his focus on navigating the terrain. But as the constellations shifted above us in the vast, unpolluted sky, he began to unveil pieces of his world, each revelation a thread weaving into the tapestry of my understanding. The orcs, he explained, were far from the mindless brutes depicted in human folklore. They were stewards of primordial magics tied to the land, displaced by the relentless march of human progress factories belching smoke, highways slicing through sacred groves, cities sprawling like invasive weeds. Your kind fears us because we embody what you've forsaken, he said, his voice dropping to a contemplative timbre as we paused by a trickling stream to rest. A bond with the earth, strength unmarred by pretense or shame. Emboldened by his openness, I shared my own story in halting words, the dam of repression finally cracking under the pressure. I spoke of the suffocating isolation in Willow Creek, where my attraction to men had to be concealed like a dangerous secret, lest it invite ridicule or violence from those who clung to outdated norms. Thorn listened without interruption, his nods measured and empathetic, his massive form somehow less intimidating in the moonlight. Among my clan, love flows freely, unbound by such narrow constraints, he responded, his eyes meeting mine with a sincerity that warmed me from within. True power arises from embracing the heart's truth, not burying it. His words resonated deeply, stirring a longing I'd suppressed for years, a sense of belonging I'd never known. As the first light of dawn pierced the canopy, we arrived at a concealed encampment nestled in the heart of the Smoky Mountains, a bustling haven where orc warriors coexisted with a diverse array of humans and mystical beings who'd sought refuge from the outside world. Tents of hides and woven branches dotted the clearing, campfires crackling with the savory aroma of roasting venison and herbs. Thorn presented me to his kin with pride, his voice booming across the site. Behold Elijah, who comes not as tribute, but as an ally to strengthen our cause. He introduced me to Kira Iron Fist, his steadfast second-in-command, a formidable orc woman with braided locks interwoven with eagle feathers and a gaze sharp as her dual axes. Whispers of curiosity and skepticism circulated among the gathered, but Thorn's unwavering command silenced any overt challenge. In a private moment by his command tent, he personally assisted me in donning the armor, his large fingers surprisingly dexterous as they adjusted straps, brushing against my shoulders and sending unexpected thrills along my skin. It molded to my form as if crafted by destiny itself, lightweight yet impenetrable. This shall guard you, he murmured close to my ear, his breath warm, as I vow to do. The following days melted into a vortex of adaptation and enlightenment, each hour peeling away layers of my former self. Under Kira's rigorous tutelage, I grasped the basics of swordplay, my once soft hands blistering and hardening from the hilt's unyielding grip, my muscles aching but growing stronger with every swing. Thorn was a constant presence, observing from the sidelines with a mix of protectiveness and encouragement, his deep laughter echoing when I managed a clever parry or stumbled comically. You're swift as a deer, little one, he'd jest, but his tone carried genuine respect, his eyes lingering longer than necessary, kindling a spark between us. One twilight evening, as we sat by a blazing campfire that warded off the mountain chill, Thorn opened up about his own scars, not the physical ones, but the emotional voids. He recounted the tragic loss of his former mate, a valiant orc warrior named Lyric, felled in a ruthless human ambush years prior, an event that had encased his heart in ice. I believed the spirits had abandoned me to solitude, he confessed, his gaze lost in the dancing flames, vulnerability cracking his stoic facade. Until the moment I saw you in that circle, Elijah. You rekindled something I thought extinguished forever. My chest tightened with empathy, a shared pain bridging our differences. I extended my hand to his, our fingers interlacing naturally. I'm terrified too, I whispered, my voice barely above the crackle of wood. of this new world, of these feelings surging inside me. He turned, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the stars pale. Then let us shatter those fears side by side, like chains forged in weakness. In that sacred instant, beneath the expansive canopy of the American night sky, our lips met in a kiss that ignited like wildfire, tender yet fervent. A fusion of fragility and unyielding strength, binding us in a love that defied the boundaries of species and society. Yet, such serenity proved ephemeral. A brief calm before the tempest. Murmurs from scouts infiltrated the camp like insidious vines. Speaking of brewing turmoil back in Willow Creek, the elders, incensed by Thorn's audacious rejection of the sacrifice, had forged unholy pacts with neighboring human militias, fanning the flames of ancient prejudices into a roaring inferno. Reports detailed armed patrols combing the foothills, spearheaded by Victor Hale, a towering blonde hunter from my hometown whose chiseled features hid a soul poisoned by bigotry, always quick to label anything deviating from his narrow worldview as unnatural. Victor had regarded me with thinly veiled disdain for years, and now my unforeseen alliance with Thorn painted me as the ultimate traitor in his eyes. Thorn convened his war council in the dim light of his tent. Maps sprawled across a rough-hewn table illuminated by flickering lanterns. We cannot wait for them to strike. We must preempt their aggression, or risk everything we've built, he declared, his fists slamming down with controlled force. I stepped forward, my voice steadier than I felt, the armor's weight a reassuring anchor. Let me scout ahead. I know those paths like the back of my hand. Thorn's eyes softened with concern, but he nodded, recognizing my resolve. Clad in my rune-etched gear, I ventured into the familiar woods alone, the leaves crunching underfoot like echoes of my past life. As I approached the outskirts of Willow Creek, nostalgia crashed over me in waves, the aroma of fresh-baked pies from Mrs. Jenkins' bakery, the hum of Marcus's garage where engines roared to life under his expert care, the simple rhythms I'd once taken for granted. Concealed in the undergrowth, I eavesdropped on Victor addressing a ragtag mob in the town square, torches casting demonic shadows on their faces. That beast has ensnared our own Elijah with dark sorcery. We reclaim him by force, or we raze their filthy camp to ashes. His words dripped with venom, igniting cheers from the crowd, panic fueling my steps. I sprinted back to the encampment, arriving breathless as preparations hummed with urgent Syorks honing massive axes, shamans invoking protective spells that made the air shimmer. Thorn drew me into a secluded alcove, his hands gripping my shoulders. You need not join the fray, my love. Stay safe here. But I met his gaze fiercely. This battle is mine as much as yours. For our future, for what we've found in each other. The clash ignited at midnight, beneath a crimson blood moon that bathed the mountains in an ominous glow, as if the heavens themselves wept for the folly below. Human assailants surged from the treeline, their torches blazing like fallen stars, gunfire cracking sharply against the orcs' enchanted barriers that absorbed impacts with bursts of light. Thorn spearheaded the defense, his war cry a primal bellow that reverberated through the valley, shaking loose stones from the cliffs. I charged alongside him, my sword a blur as it met steel, the training paying off in adrenaline-fueled precision. In the heart of the melee, I locked blades with Victor, his face contorted in rage under the moonlight. You betray your own kind, boy, he snarled, his strikes heavy with hatred. You've brought shame upon us all with your perversions. I deflected his blows, sweat beading on my brow, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. Love isn't a shame. Victor, it's the greatest strength we have. Open your eyes. Our duel intensified amid the surrounding pandemonium. swords clanging like tolling bells heralding destiny. Thorn's voice cut through the din, calling my name as he felled opponents in his path to reach me. In a frantic thrust, Victor lunged for my chest, but Thorn interposed himself, his axe shattering Victor's weapon in a shower of sparks. Victor crumpled, wounded but breathing, his defiance broken. As the first rays of dawn pierced the horizon, the human forces scattered in disarray, their morale shattered. Thorn and I stood amidst the battlefield's remnants, his arm encircling my waist in a protective embrace. "You are indeed my blessing," he whispered, his voice hoarse from the fight, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of blood and triumph. Yet victory extracted its toll. Kira lay gravely injured nearby, her body shielding younger warriors, her sacrifice a poignant reminder of the costs of hatred. In the days that followed, we tended to the wounded with unwavering care, orcs and captured humans alike receiving salves and spells under the camp's healers. Marcus appeared at the perimeter one morning, his face marred by bruises from defying the town's zealots, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. "I couldn't stand by and watch them tear this apart," he said, embracing me tightly. Thorn extended a hand in welcome. "Any friend of Elijah's is kin to us." Weeks unfolded into a tentative harmony, the old pact undergoing a profound metamorphosis. Delegations from Willow Creek and Orc clans convened under flags of truce in neutral glades, dialogues replacing daggers as they hammered out a renewed accord. No longer would lives be bartered like commodities. Instead, mutual aid and understanding would bind them. Thorn and I nurtured our relationship amid this flux, his unyielding strength harmonizing with my empathetic spirit. In serene interludes, we'd wander mountain trails hand in hand, sharing visions of a unified future where differences enriched rather than divided. On a crisp autumn afternoon, atop a windswept peak commanding views of undulating valleys painted in fiery hues, Thorn dropped to one knee, his massive form humbled before me. "Elijah, you have transformed my existence from one of curses to boundless hope. Will you stand eternally by my side?" Tears welled in my eyes, blurring the panorama, as I nodded fervently. "Always, my love." Our commitment rippled outward, a symbol of possibility for the marginalized and misunderstood. In the concealed realms of America, where myth intertwined with modernity, we demonstrated that authentic blessings emerge not from enforced subjugation, but from hearts courageous enough to embrace the unknown. The encampment thrummed with revitalized vigor as the fresh alliances took root, forging bonds that promised lasting stability. Thorn's command radiated with newfound luminance, his previously impenetrable demeanor now softened by the glow of our shared affection, a transformation that inspired his followers to envision greater horizons. I'd often catch him stealing glances during strategy sessions around the central fire pit, a subtle smile curling around his tusks, causing my heart to flutter with that enduring warmth we'd kindled together. Kira, resilient as ever, mended gradually in the healer's tent, her battle scars weaving tales of valor that she wore like badges of honor. "You pair of fools give an old fighter like me something to believe in again," she groused one afternoon while polishing her axes, though her gruff tone couldn't hide the twinkle in her eye. However, tranquility was shadowed by emerging threats, like clouds gathering on a clear day. Whispers from far-flung scouts painted pictures of a formidable adversary, a consortium of northern orc clans under the iron fist of Draven Stormfist, a warlord who dismissed Thorn's compassionate approach as a fatal flaw, a dilution of their ancestral might. Draven's legions had been advancing southward with merciless precision, subjugating territories from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi, their war drums echoing promises of domination. Patrols spotted their vanguard near the Ohio River's winding banks, banners emblazoned with storm motifs fluttering ominously in the breeze. Thorn unburdened his concerns to me during a midnight stroll beside a murmuring stream. The water's gentle flow a counterpoint to the turmoil in his voice. Draven and I once fought as brothers, shoulder to shoulder against common foes. But treachery poisoned his spirit, turning camaraderie to enmity. The pain of that fractured bond etched lines on his face, illuminated by the moon's silver light. I clasped his hand firmly, drawing strength from our connection. We'll confront him united. You've shown me that true might lies in alliance, not isolation. Defensive measures escalated swiftly. I immersed myself in advanced training, my physique evolving from unassuming to honed under the orc's demanding drills. Each session building not just muscle but confidence. Marcus acclimated seamlessly, his ingenuity shining as he fused human technology with orc craftsmanship, rifles augmented with arcane crystals that unleashed bolts of ethereal energy. Innovations that could tip battles in our favor. This is insane. Eli. He'd chuckle over his workbench, tools clinking rhythmically. Feels like I'm in some epic fantasy flick. But the risks are all too real. One stormy evening, as rain drummed a relentless tattoo on our tent's canvas roof, Thorn and I sought solace in each other's arms, a haven amid the gathering storm. I never dared dream of love renewing itself in my life, he admitted softly, his fingers tracing lazy circles on my bare skin, evoking shivers of delight. You push me to evolve, Elijah, to be more than a conqueror or a guardian. I drew him closer, our kiss escalating into a passionate torrent, bodies melding in a symphony of mutual need and affirmation. A reaffirmation that in vulnerability lay our greatest power. The inevitable clash erupted abruptly. Draven's raiders ambushed a vital supply convoy traversing a narrow pass, seizing several of our bravest warriors as hostages. Thorn's fury ignited like a forge, his commands sharp as he rallied the clan. We liberate them before the sun crests again. I demanded inclusion in the rescue party, my armor now personalized with etched symbols of our Luvia's stylized heart entwined with a curving tusk, a talisman against the darkness. The operation unfolded in a veil of morning fog blanketing a secluded valley, arrows slicing silently through the haze as we infiltrated Draven's makeshift stronghold. Thorn's axe whirled in devastating arcs, cleaving through sentries with grim efficiency. I navigated to the captives' enclosure near a roaring bonfire, my blade severing their bonds amid hushed gratitude. But Draven materialized from the mist like a specter, his bulk even more imposing than Thorn's, eyes abyssal pools of malice. So this is Thorn's pampered human toy, he mocked, his voice a gravelly sneer. Pathetic. Thorn barreled into the fray, their confrontation a titanic spectacle, axes colliding with sparks of raw magic, the ground quaking under their might. Draven employed underhanded tactics, conjuring tendrils of shadow that lashed at Thorn's vulnerabilities, seeking to overwhelm him. Seizing the moment, I lunged forward, my sword piercing the inky veil and disrupting the spell, granting Thorn the crucial advantage. With a thunderous roar, he disarmed Draven, forcing him to his knees. Surrender, old friend, Thorn urged, his weapon poised but steady. Draven's bitter laughter echoed hollowly. You've weakened yourself with this softness. Yet, in that pivotal instant, a glimmer of doubt crossed Draven's features as he glanced at me, witnessing not frailty but unyielding determination. He yielded, his forces melting away into the wilderness. Maybe there's merit in your path after all, he grumbled before retreating, a seed of potential reconciliation planted. This triumph solidified our burgeoning coalitions. Emissaries from the northern clans arrived bearing olive branches, captivated by Thorn's innovative leadership. I, Elijah Rivera, transitioned from sacrificial lamb to revered mediator, a living emblem of cross-cultural harmony. With conflicts receding, our existence adopted a cadence of serenity. Thorn and I traversed America's diverse terrains, from the misty Appalachians to the majestic Rockies, championing integration at gatherings of mixed peoples. In bustling Denver, we spoke before assembled councils. Our intertwined hands a powerful statement. Love knows no confines. I'd proclaim, Thorn's supportive presence amplifying my words. Personal challenges, however, tempered our joy. Homesickness gnawed at me. Yearnings for mundane comforts like the steam of a fresh espresso or the banter of old acquaintances. Thorn, ever attuned, orchestrated a surprise, a rudimentary cafe erected in the camp's heart, stocked with beans bartered from human merchants. For you, my blessing, he presented bashfully, his gesture melting my reservations. Our private world deepened, evenings alive with murmured vows and ardent caresses. His once daunting touch now my ultimate refuge. You fulfill every void in me, he breathed, our essences converging in blissful union. As cycles of nature wheeled onward, a lingering shadow manifested in Victor Hale's undimmed vendetta. Unyielding in his prejudice, he orchestrated a clandestine incursion, slipping into our camp under night's cloak, his dagger glinting malevolently above Thorn's slumbering form. Jolted awake by instinct, I hurled myself at him, our bodies tumbling in a frantic grapple. Why persist in this madness? I panted, straining against his fury. You're an abomination, tainting everything, he hissed venomously. Thorn roused, overpowering Victor with ease. Rather than meting out death, we extended mercy's hand. Choose redemption with us, or depart in tranquility. Victor opted for banishment, his entrenched loathing fracturing under the weight of our unwavering kindness, perhaps sowing doubts in his hardened heart. Ultimately, our narrative transcended mere endurance-seat embodied metamorphosis. From the ashes of sacrifice arose a profound blessing, erecting a heritage of inclusivity that illuminated paths for generations. In the mosaic of America's legends and realities, we affirm that love, in its purest essence, invariably prevails over division. Decades hence, as venerable figures in our community, Thorn and I reclined by a communal hearth, observing the frolics of youthful humans and orcs intermingling without prejudice, their laughter a harmonious chorus. We've crafted this world, I reflected, resting against his solid frame. No, you have, he countered tenderly, pressing a kiss to my brow. My timeless blessing. The breeze bore our shared joy aloft, an eternal ode to love's transformative might.